Good afternoon, everybody. Um, I'm excited today. I think that this is coming across and giving those excited vibes because I am, and I'm so lucky. We're all so lucky today because we are joined by Dan Metcalfe Hall. And I promise you it's a treat. Dan and I have spoken before this, obviously, and had some chats, and I came away thinking, wow, we're going to have such a great episode. And that is why this is a special episode. So we're going to do a bit longer than normal. I try to stick to 15 minutes generally, often go over. On this occasion, I'm just going to let us go over because we've got loads to talk about. Um, Dan's life and his journey is so fascinating. And I hope that everyone watching really gets as much from it as I have already. And we haven't even recorded this episode. So this is a pre-recorded episode. So we don't have any live Q&As. But if you do have any questions that come up or you'd like to get in touch, please just send me an email or touch base with me on LinkedIn. I'm not great on there, but I am getting better. So drop me a message with any questions and I'll make sure that they're passed on to Dan. So, Dan, just by way of brief introduction, Dan sustained a spinal cord injury for the first time in 2014 when he was 24 years old. He is a person, it is safe to say, whose injury doesn't define him by any means. He is a Guinness World Record holder, a keen sportsman, and somewhat of an expert scuba diver too. So, we're talking today to Dan about his journey, what life has thrown at him since his initial accident in 2014. And I'm just gonna jump straight in, Dan, because no one wants to hear me talk. We're here to listen to you. So I wanted to start off. Well, first of all, thank you so much for being here and agreeing to chat to me today.
Yeah, thanks for bringing me on, Emma. It's been brilliant.
No, my pleasure. I want to talk a little bit about the kind just by way of background, I suppose, Dan, just talk a wee bit about your original accident in 2014.
Yeah, so obviously I'm Dan. Wheelsdan, everybody knows me as on socials and stuff. 2014, I had a motorbike accident. Was riding my Honda CBR, as every young lad does at the weekends, enjoying it. I caught some gravel on a 90-degree bend from a farm track and dumped my bike basically. So dropped the bike to the floor. I spun across the road, and unfortunately, my mate behind me hit me in the middle of the back with his motorbike. So that left me at T8 paraplegic. So I've got a T10 vertebrae was blown apart, and I had a hematoma on site that left me with T8 paraplegic. So just above the belly button down, completely paralyzed. I'm a complete injury, so not compressed or anything. It's completely severed. Um, so it makes it a bit more easy because it's just defined. You're not getting that back. But yeah, I got to go in a helicopter, which was great. First time ever in a helicopter, so that was fantastic. Um, but yeah. 2014 was the main crash. I was very active. I was a builder before. I've been a builder for 10 years. And I was doing lots of sports with push biking and doing charity events and stuff. Bit of kickboxing as well. So I was very active, which actually probably helped the most in hospital was the fact that
Mm.
I was fit, um, so that the body could heal faster.
Yeah.
And yeah, I
I
did.
find it super interesting. Dan, I promised you before this I was going to try and not go on a tangent. I'm already doing it. But I find it super interesting that you say, that you find it easier psychologically, if that's the right word, to have a complete injury. Is that because you kind of knew where the parameters were and there was no kind of grey areas with certain things?
Yeah, I'm a kind of like black and white-ish sort of person.
Yeah.
I'm learning grey shades, but I'm getting there.
So
It's yeah. So with the black and white side of it, for me, it wasn't I can't be disheartened with the fact I'm not getting any feeling back somewhere, or that I'm not progressing, like being able to stand up or
yeah.
anything like that, or oh, I can wiggle my big toe today, but I can't wiggle my big toe next week. I don't have that issue, and never had that issue.
Yeah.
The only thing that actually changed with my paralysis really is the bladder functions. That was the
Yeah.
only thing that changed in the 3.5 months I was in hospital.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, it's just for me, it means it's dead cut, clear, easier to process the fact that that's it, you're done. You're not getting that back. It's not like I'm not like a salamander. It's not going to grow back. So
Yeah.
um, for me, that was an easier thing to cope with. It's not easy for anybody to cope with. You have days, you have those moments. A friend that I know well calls it the little person inside. You have a little person in here, and that little person breaks out every now and again, and you have to have a bit of a moment. But
Yeah.
in those 3.5 months, you have them, you learn to deal with them. And the thing that I always say is there's no point in sitting in the corner of the room and crying about it because you've got to come out of that corner at some point. So it's either you choose to come out of that corner earlier and it doesn't break you down so much and you have to face it earlier, or you take the time you need to deal with it, but you may be in a worse place afterwards.
Got you. Yeah. It's so interesting because everyone's approach is so different. Is it? But you're in a unique position at this point, Dan, 'cause you're 24-year-old lad. You know, you are a young man and you find yourself in this position. You're in hospital, and I just wanted to talk a wee bit about your experience in hospital because I think it's helpful for lots of the people that will watch this episode. Just will you tell us a little bit about your experience, that those early stages?
So yeah, the very early stages of being in hospital is horrible.
Yeah.
Genuinely, it's horrible. It's the worst time in your life, sort of thing. You've had a catastrophic injury. It's not great. We always kind of joke about it. You send your dignity on a postcard back to your parents, because as if anybody listening to this is a spinal cord injured or is a nurse that is spinal cord injury, then they'll understand exactly what I'm saying. Bowel care in the morning. They have to ask you for permission for it because it's statutory rape if it doesn't. So it's yeah. Oh, and I used to joke. I used to go, no, you can't. And the nurse is like, no, no, Dan, you can't say that. I can't do this unless you. So yeah, there is lots of stuff that yeah is really. If you dig deep and think about it, it's really bad. It's really a horrible time. It's embarrassing. But if you get yourself stuck in that time and your mindset stuck in this is hell, this is horrible, it will be hell and it will be horrible. If you can find something to focus on, or if you can find a bit of fun, a bit of laughter. I had some amazing nurses. I was in Sheffield Northern General. I started in Nottingham, Queensbed, where I had my operation, but then 3 days later I was over in Sheffield Northern General, Osborne unit, and the nurses over there were just, as I think most spinal cord injury nurses are. I think a lot of nurses are, to be fair, were just brilliant,
Yeah.
absolutely phenomenal. I had such a laugh with a lot of them, and they just bring that. They know that bringing a bit of humour into it just breaks all those problems. Yeah, you've still got to deal with the issues, but if you can have a bit of a laugh about it, then yeah, great. We had all sorts of stuff, water fights, and all sorts of things that we're not supposed to be doing in the hospital, but it it becomes, it makes that time a bit easier.
Yeah, you're going to get people in trouble. I'm
Yeah.
not joking. And do you know what really stuck in my mind the last time we talked, which I just thought was pretty amazing, was that you kind of set yourself like goals, like mini challenges and goals. And you said to me, because they've got that, if you've ever been to the spinal unit at Sheffield, they've got, it's kind of down at the bottom of a big hill. There's a big kind of long hill down to the unit. And you had said to me that you set yourself a challenge to kind of get to the top of that. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so I think they did it deliberately when they built the place so that people can't escape. So what I was told was once I'm fit enough to push the wheelchair up the hill to the clock tower at the top, if anybody knows the hospital, it's probably a 300-meter push, somewhere around there. But it's a very steep hill to start with, up the car park and out, and there's a salt box halfway up the car park, and it's a sweeping bend as well. So if you can push yourself all the way up to that, and then you can push past it to the clock tower at the top, then you're allowed out the hospital. That's what I was told. So about 2 weeks, 3 weeks, no, 3 weeks had passed, and I still had my brace on, my spinal brace on with the sheepskin and all that sort of stuff in the middle of summer, which is fantastic. I'm in a wheelchair for the first time. They let me get in it, and within 3 days of being in a wheelchair, I'm learning, I'm doing wheelies backwards, which I'm getting told off about, and it was just an absolute drive to get up that hill because I hate hospitals. I hate places. I don't like, I'm a prisoner in there. It's horrible. So it's what I want to do is just get out. And so I set myself a target. They tell me as soon as I can get up that hill, I can go out, I'm going up that hill. And that's what I did every single day, just went out and just drived and pushed and pushed and pushed. I was told off several times that you shouldn't be doing this. You've got a brace on. You shouldn't be pushing yourself to this limit. But yeah, it's on it. It's that it was a target. Get out of get out of the hospital. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I did was push up the hill as much as I physically could. And the
It's such
greatest
good.
thing was once I learned how to get up the hill, I could then come down it.
Yeah. Which is much more enjoyable, I imagine.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
such good advice generally, Dan, setting yourself small goals like that.
yeah.
And for someone in that position, I imagine that's hugely incentivizing. I wanted to talk a little bit. You're obviously you are hugely fit. You were hugely fit before this, and you kind of carried that on, and I wanted to talk about that. So, because I know that as you progressed with your rehab, you became involved in all sorts inter-unit games, Paralympics, all sorts, lots of different sporting endeavors. And I just wondered whether you would talk a little bit about your experience of that.
Yeah, so yeah, I was involved in a lot of sports. Still am, but I took my rehab as physical, as a physical fitness, because it was that injury at that time was a physical thing. I hadn't had a severe head injury. I know I got a head, bang on the head sort of thing, but it wasn't a severe injury in the head. So it was more physical. And then on a physical side of it, I was like, well, I've just got to fix myself. I've got to build up the muscle to be able to deal with. If you're lighter and if you're stronger, then you can do more stuff. So it was like, oh, transferring in and out of a wheelchair. The first couple of times you do it, you've got to do it with a slide board, and you're knackered and you're tired, and it's just it's like the whole thing you can do in one day is just transferring in and out of that chair and wheeling up and down a ward, which is flat. But then fast forward that over a week, and all of a sudden you're pushing out of the hospital and trying to go up a stupidly steep ramp and up curbs and all that sort of stuff. And I took it physical fitness in sports would get me through it. And I found physical fitness matched mental fitness. So I found that as I was going in the gym and I was training, I'm releasing endorphins, I'm getting fitter, I'm getting feeling better about myself. I'm happier because I can physically do more. So that enables me to do more. And I just found it was a rolling thing that every time I went and did training, I felt good. Every time I went and got fitter or did something else, I was like, oh, actually, I can do this because I'm physically strong enough to do that. Whereas if I wasn't physically strong enough, I'd be in a better, worse mental state. So it was really, really good that they sort of they go hand in hand. And I do believe and still agree that gym fit is mental fit. It's the same thing. They go hand in hand with each other. Um, and yeah, I did get into a hell of a lot of sports. I mean, at Sheffield, they've got the basketball, wheelchair basketball, they've got rugby, they've got blind archery, which I went and did some blind archery. I wasn't allowed to do wheelchair rugby, which is what I really wanted to do. I got told I wasn't allowed to do it because these work too well, hands. So they said, no, your hands work too well, you're not allowed to do it. You'd be too powerful to play. So I was on great.
Oh no.
But basketball, I would have been one of the lowest pointers there. So I couldn't see the point of being in a defender chair with a 7 foot tall person in a high wheelchair in front of me. I'm like, well, I can't throw the ball through you, so I can't do it. So I didn't do that. But I did go in the gym. I did training. I went pushing in the chair, and I did a bit of archery as well.
Yeah. What is blind archery, Dan? Sorry to ask
It is actually that blind archers. So they are blind. It
Wow.
is amazing if people want to look up how they do it. And these archers are scoring ridiculous, scores. They're getting the spider all the time, and they are fantastic. And the Blind Archery Association is at Sheffield, Northern General.
That
or
is
they
amazing.
go there at least every week that I used to see. And I used to started off watching and thinking, how the hell are they doing that? And they said, oh, do you want to go? Yeah, all right. So I went and had a go. Yeah, it's really good, really, really
That's
good to do.
incredible. And how did you carry that on after you left hospital, Dan? So you obviously had like lots of things at your disposal while you were at hospital, lots of facilities and things and support. How did you carry that on in the community?
Yeah, so I came out of hospital, bad times coming out of hospital. It was difficult. There was lots going on in life as well as just the physical stuff. So I went into sports again. I did tennis at the local tennis club here. They have a disability tennis chairs there. So I did tennis. I carried on with a little bit of archery through Sheffield. Um, and I then took up hand cycling. That was the main thing, was taking up hand cycling and just pushing the wheelchair. I had a couple of mates that were brilliant, and I had an old crappy old wheelchair that they used to go in. So I got my Argon 2, which is the best NHS chair you could get at the time, and they had the crappy old one. And we used to just go out for like 10-mile pushes in the wheelchair, just around Grantham and the local area, to get fit and stay fit. And that's kind of where fitness just kept going and going. And within 3 months, I think it was, of coming out of hospital, I went and did Tough Mudder came to Beaver Castle. And I saw Tough Mudder and I was like, do you know what? Yeah, we're going to do it. Sod it. So we made a group, team of us together, 14 people. And I was the first paralysed wheelchair user to go around Tough Mudder at Beaver Castle. So that was fun. Uh, there was only two things that they wouldn't let me do. They wouldn't let me go through the ice challenge part of it, which you have to submerge and swim through, because they didn't know whether the temperature sensor on the back of your head would kick in and I'd just pass out. And then they also wouldn't let me do the electric shock challenge at the end of it because I had a 9-point harness on, which had metal clips and brackets all over it. So if I
Okay.
connected with any of the live wires, it would be a bit more shocking than anybody else would guess. They said, no, you're not doing that either. But every other challenge, I did the monkey bars, I did the huge 40-foot climb, I did all that stuff. I did everything. It's
That
brilliant.
is amazing, Dan. And I mean, presumably your friends and the group of people you're doing it with were, like key to you in terms of
Yeah.
support and pulling it all together. Because I mean, I assume that Tough Mudder, I mean, I don't know much about it, but I assume that Tough Mudder's something that is not set up for wheelchair users. And it's, as you
No.
say, you're the first person to do it. So they probably thought, how is this going to happen? So was the planning leading up to that just huge?
Yeah, that kind of like started all of the crazy challenges and crazy events sort of things. I mean, like just going back a step, we're going like from at Sheffield. I made a couple of videos of me going from the very top hill, which you'll know where that is, all the way down, then round the hairpin bend, and all the way back down to the hospital with no brakes and on a wheelchair. I made a couple of stupid videos doing that, and then that's kind of like where challenges built up, and it was kind of like a focus point as well. So every time I saw something that I wanted to be stupid and do, or a crazy idea that I've come up with, or somebody else come up with, we would use that as the next challenge, the next step. Right, get fit to do that. How do we plan to do all this stuff? Because Tough Mudder wasn't easy, and like I say, 14 people. I had to build harness straps to connect to the front of the chair for 14 people to pull me. I had one on the back as well, to keep me from flipping out the wheelchair if we crashed on anything. So there's lots of planning involved, and we then used exactly the same straps, which actually were ratchet straps, to climb everything. So with the 9-point life harness I had on, I was clipped to that like a rock climbing harness, but it was connected to different points in my body because obviously no point connected to my groin like a rock climbing harness. 'Cause I have no abs, so we connected to a central point on the chest. Um, and then it was a case of, right, Dan, you climb everything, and we'll just take your weight if you slip. And that's what it was. That's how we kept it safe. And Tough Mudder, the organisers of it, looked at it and was like, yeah, okay, fair play. You guys have come proper prepared for this. So they did just let us do everything apart from the couple that I said before.
That is so incredible, honestly.
Yeah.
I mean, what I'm off on a tangent again, but I wanted to ask you about that support and that community around you, those friends and family members, presumably, that helped you. Has that been important to you from the beginning? I
Yeah.
mean, is there a temptation to, I imagine there must be, a temptation to kind of, draw back from people and, how important has that been to you?
Yeah, it was. I had a few times in hospital, and it's strange because people think, well, when you have this life-changing thing that everybody comes and flocks around you in hospital. That's not in reality. That's not what happens. Um, you end up going to hospital. You don't know how long you're going to be in there. I might be in there in my brain, I might be in there for a month, or I might be in there for 2 years. You have no idea how long you're going to be in there for. And it was really good. I had my family came round, every week. They came to see me, multiple times a week. I had one of my mates, best mate at the time, who came, saw me once a week. He gave up his kickboxing day to come and see me, one day a week. But other than that, a lot of people disappeared until you come out of hospital. And you come out of hospital, you're back in everyday life, and people see you about. And then I found the more active I was, the more people remember who you were and start getting involved again. Um, yeah, once you shut yourself off into a house or into a room on your own, life just passes by because everybody else carries on. They,
Yeah.
yeah, they don't stop because you stopped. Um, and that's
Yeah.
something that you can get caught in a very nasty spiral, and get caught up in that world as well. That's why I say you have to make challenges, have to make goals, have to make plans to go forward and drag people in, get people involved in it. Because when you start getting a team around you and you get people going, right, what are you doing this day? What are you doing that day? Have you got to that goal yet? What do we need to do here? It keeps you involved and your mind busy and everything's set to just carry on going. And that's what I've done ever since coming out of hospital, really, is I've always had another goal or another event that's being planned, or keeps the
Yeah.
brain busy. Doesn't let you get involved in those downward spirals, which I learned later on down the line is a dangerous thing to always do, and you do have to come to terms with things a bit as well. But that was another
Yeah. We
another event.
we need like a second episode, Dan, frankly, for all the questions I have for you. But I'm gonna move on and
Yep,
ask you about unbelievably, you had another accident in 2018. Can you
I
tell us
did.
a bit about that?
Yeah, obviously there's all the stuff with the spinal unit games and all that sort of thing, but that's difficult. But my second crash. So after the hospital, after the spinal unit games, after doing all those kind of things, I went into hand cycling, like I've already said, and I got relatively good in a hand cycle. It was competitive. It was, bumping into each other, racing every weekend. I was away racing and training every single day, to the point where you're training for 4 or 5 hours a day and then racing at the weekends. So you just not you are a full-time athlete. And I got to fifth in the UK, in hand cycling, in my first 2 years of hand cycling, and then it just kept getting better and better and better.
Yeah.
I got picked. There was five of us that were being trialed by Team GB, for Rio Olympics. So we were all being tested and trained on a weekly basis, either in Loughborough or London. We were being trained at both those. And we were training as a unit together, as a big team together, and it was fantastic training. I had a couple of little niggles in between where I got a little bit injured or not quite as quick, and so did others. And then I was doing a 600-mile charity bike ride in the month of June, where basically you had the entire month of June, but we decided as a team together that we would individually do it, and we'd do it in 14 days instead of in in the whole month. So we were just flying, going out, doing everything. I was on like 58 miles or something like that on that day. Um, and I was going up a hill just outside of Grantham, very steep hill, and a car came flying around the corner behind me. And all I heard was screeching, high-pitched screeching, and a huge bang. Because it's a steep hill. There was a lorry coming down the road on the other side of the road, when this car came from behind me round the bend, slammed his brakes on. Obviously, he was going too fast, so he didn't make it. He hit the side of a lorry, that bad that he destroyed the front end of his car and took the wheel off the lorry. He then still managed to bounce off the lorry and hit me in the hand cycle. So he hit me in the back. And obviously, in the hand cycle, you're laid down, so you're laid down, legs forward, and you're pumping with your arms. Um, so your head is the most exposed part of a hand cycle, apart from your feet, which could get run over, I suppose. But yeah, you're strapped in, you've got nowhere to go. And I was underneath his front bumper for 18 meters, something like that. He pushed me underneath the car. And all I remember was holding on to the handlebars, just like, shit, don't turn. Because if I turn, I'll just roll and then I would have been done. So yeah, it was a bad one, very bad. And that was a problem. It was a real big problem. Um, I had another lorry slam his brakes on and stop coming down the hill as well. He ran out and was, "Oh my God, are you all right? You're all right." I could hear screaming behind me. I was sort of like, just deal with whoever's behind me. I know they're not dead because I can hear them screaming, so they're all right. So he did. He went and sorted that out, and he came back to me, and it was a really funny moment because he saw a guy laid in a mangled bike. He did, managed to drag me out from underneath the bumper first, so because my head was a bit, squished. But he dragged me out from underneath there, and he's like, mate, do you want to get up from that? And I hadn't clicked in my head. He doesn't know I'm paralyzed. He doesn't know I'm in a hand cycle. To him, I'm a guy crushed in a push bike, and I'm like,
Yeah.
mate, I can't get up. I'm paralyzed. And he's absolute meltdown. He like panicking. He's jumping around. Oh my God, I gotta get the ambulance. Get her. I was, oh, calm down, mate. Calm down. I was paralyzed before he hit me. It's it's fine. I don't know whether I can say this on your podcast things. You might have to beat this out, Holly. Anyway, you bastard! I've just had a heart attack. Just he said, my heart's going, absolutely going. He said, why didn't you say that before? I was like, oh, I didn't really think about that. So yeah, it was quite a funny moment. And yeah, we had a good laugh actually on site about that. And then obviously, oh yeah, the paramedics turn up and the police turn up and all that lot happens. From that, I refused to go to hospital because I'd already spent time in hospital and I weren't going back. So I refused to go to hospital stupidly. Advice to everybody, don't do that. Go to hospital, get yourself checked out. So I didn't. I went home. The paramedics told my dad, do not leave him on his own tonight. He's had a head injury. We don't know what damage has been done. But they okayed me to go home. I went home. Yes, I wasn't very good. The next day, got up, and in my brain, all I could do was finish that charity bike ride because I had 14 miles left to finish it. So I dragged my smashed up hand cycle into the lounge, connected it up to my smart trainer, and did those final 14 miles. In doing those final 14 miles, I blacked out or passed out 3 times. My daughter at the time, that was, she was only little to be fair, but she woke me up 3 times. And she's like, "Oh, Dad, you've been asleep." I was like, "Oh, yeah, yeah, okay, yeah." I'll just carry on and just carried on going because I had to finish it. In my head, I had to finish that challenge. Otherwise, I was a failure and I'd failed the challenge. So I did it. I finished it, which was great. Yeah, really stupid, but I did it. 3 days after that, I was at the point where my head was so bad, my headaches were so bad that I couldn't sleep at all. Every time I closed my eyes, I could just hear or see the huge crash and bang because I had a little budgie mirror on the hand cycle that you can see behind you, and obviously all I saw was this grey silver thing and smoke everywhere, and it was all just brought back the original crash. So all the noises and all the bang and everything was just like the original first crash. So obviously, I mean, everybody that listens to this will be going, "Oh shit, yeah, he's got PTSD." Well, I didn't know that, and in my head, I was so screwed up at that time because this one was a head injury, and neck injury. So 3 days after that, I go to hospital. Dad says, "No, you've got to go." So he took me to hospital, and they told me off to start with. I was getting really annoyed with the machines because like my heart rate was down at 48 because I was super fit. And I was like, it will be low. I've been racing and riding non-stop. So yeah, the machine was beeping all the time. So I was doing my head in. But they sent me in. They said, yeah, you've got compression C4 in your neck. You're an idiot. Why didn't you come in 3 days ago? This is ridiculous. So yeah, I had that, which then took a very long time to, to deal with. I I went through therapy. Yes, diagnosed PTSD. And it was just horrible. And I turned into a complete arse. I like completely reverse of what I am now, and what I had become from hand cycling, from all my training and from hospital. I'd got into this person. I was positive. I was pushing. I was doing challenges and everything. But after that, it was like this neck injury and head injury had affected so much. I couldn't have anything behind me. I couldn't be in a restaurant with people walking behind me. I had to be with my back to a wall all the time. I couldn't go on the road on my hand cycle. I couldn't ride my hand cycle because, unbeknown to me, it buggered my shoulder up by knocking my C4 of my neck out, which I've now had to have rebuilt. So they've done a massive operation on my shoulder and sorted all that out. But that's like 4 years later that they sorted that out. So there was a lot of stuff. And I got to a really, really bad place with mental health. And like I say, I went through therapy and everything. And I wasn't a type of person that therapy would work. I, it did, but I wasn't the type of person that would react and engage with therapy. Um, which obviously Nicola, and you spoke to her about, all that sort of stuff. So, um, yeah, it was a bad, bad time. And I got to the point where I decided nothing was good enough for me to be here still. So I attempted to take my own life. And it was a real, real sad time for me in my life at that point. And I did just think, even my daughter being here, and, I had a relationship at that time and things weren't great, but I was just like, nothing's good enough to keep me here. So I'm just going to go. Um, and I attempted in a car, and it was a stupid thing to do. But at that point of realizing, no, this is not what you should be doing. So I stopped. I'm lucky enough to still be here, but I stopped, and I've been doing stupid things like self-harming, like my legs spasm. So when my leg spasms, I used to hit them with things, because they're just naughty little gits. So I kind of, yeah, that wasn't good. But I had some couple of friends at the time that saw this, and they were like, "You need to go diving," because I just started diving. So I'd been in a swimming pool scuba diving just 2 or 3 times, and I thought, "Oh, this is great. It's another thing, another challenge." But actually, they said, "No, you need to go diving," because they know they've dived for donkey's years, and they know the power of water, and the power of just being in that meditation time underwater. And so that they just said, yeah, you need to go diving. So even though I shouldn't have been diving with, neck injury and head injury and all that sort of stuff, and they would have 100% said, no way should you be diving. They were like, no, he needs to go diving because he's either going to kill himself, or, it's gonna be, it's gonna go wrong. So we did. We went diving. And it was the best thing I ever done, and diving saved my life. I went diving, and that first time I went in, I spent time underwater, and you are forced to go into a meditation state, because there's just your breathing, your buddy, or two buddies, depending on who you're with. And you have to calm down, and the noise of everything just disappears. The noise, what I call the noise of life, just
Yeah.
disappears, and you go into just, yeah, meditation. And that, like, was the thing that clicked. I came out from that dive, and it might have only been an half an hour dive, but I came out from that dive and I was a completely different person. And then every time I went back, it was like a kind of like a medication. Every time I went back, I just got better and better and better. And that's where diving just then took off for me. And that's obviously what I'm all about now. So
It's
yeah.
just unbelievable. I mean, it's unbelievable. I didn't want to interrupt you there because I was a bit
Sorry.
spellbound by, no, I was totally spellbound by what you were saying. Um, it's just unbelievable. And the fact that you've circled back to picking a new
Mm.
challenge and started diving is unreal to me. Where do you do that? Dan, where have
Now all over the world. Um,
where did you
but
start though? Where's a good place to start?
Yeah, so your local dive club. Basically, I dived with BZAC, British Sub Aqua Club organisation. I dived with them. There are, for people that are listening to this that are disabled, there
Yeah.
are disability diving organisations out there. The Scuba Trust, they are solely for disability diving. They're both PADI and BZAC. But every branch in BZAC should be able to take a disabled diver, which is what we're pushing for. It's what I'm forcing for through BZAC. But I actually dive with Bingham Survival Club, so that's Bingham near Nottingham, in Grantham, Lincolnshire, Nottinghamshire. Um, and yeah, that's what we do. We go in a pool every Tuesday. I'm now an instructor for them, an instructor for SSI. I'm a disability instructor. I do loads of stuff now. But yeah, you can get into it. I'm teaching a disabled lad at the moment. He's a paralyzed lad, and I'm teaching him scuba diving, and it's brilliant. It's phenomenal to see him in the water. And the first thing he did when he came out of the water is, I'm free. And you're free. You're not in a chair anymore. I mean, a lot of people say that, is it the release of, you know, because you can't walk, you can't stand up and all that sort of stuff. It's the release of a wheelchair. Actually, for me, no, it's not the release of a wheelchair. I do get it. I do get the fact that, yes, I'm now free because I can move around underwater just as good, if not better, than able-bodied divers, which obviously I've proven that I can do that. And it's, it is freedom underwater, and it's that meditation state, and it helps. It's proven that diving lowers blood pressure. It can massively increase the mental state. It is proven that there's a lot of benefits to scuba diving. Um,
Unreal.
mm,
Absolutely unreal. Dan. And I mean, I think it's that life noise that you talked about
yeah,
really resonates, doesn't it? And you had a lot of that life noise in your life at that time. You have world records, don't you? You hold world records,
yeah,
diving
I do.
world records, don't you?
Yeah, so I've got three Guinness World Records, which we set 3, 4 years ago now. Um, so I've got the fastest mile scuba dived as an able-bodied diver. So it's the fastest 1 mile scuba dived in fresh open water with a swimming band. So as long as you put a swimming band on your ankles, so you can't use your feet apparently, and you swim with your arms, any able-bodied diver can take me on. Good luck, because it's not easy, and the planning is a nightmare.
Yeah.
Um, then I've got the same world record, so the fastest mile scuba diving fresh open water for MP2, so muscle paralysis 2, which is myself obviously, my category in Guinness World Records. And then the final one, all on the same day, was the longest distance scuba dived in fresh open water as an MP2, as muscle paralysis 2. So we actually ended up doing 5.5 hours swimming, well, scuba diving between 6 and 8 meters in Stony Cove, which is a quarry in Leicestershire, going round and round in circles, which was absolute nightmare. Um, and yeah, it was a logistical nightmare to work out as a planning and all that sort of stuff. I mean, we went through 22 dive cylinders on the dive because I wasn't able to surface. As soon as I surfaced, the dive was over. So yeah, side mounts, diving, which is the same as what cave divers. If anybody, you might not know what diving is. So cave divers, if you've ever seen any of that sort of stuff, where they have two cylinders on their sides, either side of them, and a wing on their back. Yeah, so 22 of those. We went through those. I was drinking underwater, eating underwater, actually having voice messages sent down to me underwater. It's
Goodness.
fantastic to do.
That is, and what's your next challenge?
Well,
When are you doing the next one, Dan?
the big thing for all of the things that I've ever done is they've all been for charity. So like the Tough Mudder, the cycle challenges I've always done, the all the scuba diving stuff that we've done, they've always been charity based. So it's
Yeah.
always raising money for charity or recognition for something. So yeah, we raised for three charities on the three world records. The next ones that I'm doing, the next one I'm planning now, is for next year, and that'll be the 10K, fastest 10K scuba dive. Now, there's an able-bodied world record, not a disabled world record, and it currently is held by a disabled lad, who is paralyzed a little bit lower than me. So he's got a bit of abs, but yeah, he holds the world record, and he beat an able-bodied diver by an hour. Um,
Oh,
Yeah, so he's phenomenal. And yeah, I've got to go beat him to bring it to the UK so that we
oh
own it.
my goodness.
Um,
Will you come back and tell us about it
yeah,
after, Dan?
of course I would. I'd love
It's
to.
just absolutely, it's just unbelievable. And sorry to draw you back to this, but I thought it was a really important point that you touched upon in saying that initially, kind of after your 2018 accident, your view was, that therapy wouldn't help you. You weren't responsive, or like, receptive to having that. And I just wanted to circle back to that a little bit and just ask you briefly, and sorry, I know I'm running over time, but I can't help myself. I wanted to ask you about kind of the role that's ultimately therapy and psychology has played in your recovery, and how I think it's unique. You're in a unique position. You're a young man injured in your 20s on both occasions. Do you think that you were particularly, do you think you were less receptive to that because of your situation in life? And how has that changed for you?
Yeah, it's massively changed. Like my opinion of depression, my opinion of like anxiety, uh, PTSD and all that sort of stuff. It's hugely changed.
Yeah,
Yeah, massively changed. So I originally was, the classic sort of alpha male, men don't cry, men don't have feelings, you shut those off. I've seen a lot of stuff as a kid. And men deal with things, just deal with it, get over it, deal with it. That's what my original outlook on being a man was all about. And it's a load of shit. It's not. It's a load of rubbish. You are a human being just like everybody else. You have feelings just like everybody else. And if it takes something like what I've had for you to realize it's okay to cry, is ridiculous. It absolutely, it's almost like we're brainwashed into that society thinking that, men are hard, men are tough, men are, all that sort of, and it's wrong. It's
yeah,
absolutely wrong. But I did go into that with that mindset, which completely didn't help. And I didn't have a great time. But the only way that I could deal with it was with Catherine at the time, was that she was my brain PT, because I'd been through PT courses and physical fitness courses and all that sort of stuff, So I could take physical fitness, and I was a PT for physical training. And that's what Catherine said to me. She was like, well, just think of your brain as a muscle. So instead of being my therapist, she was my brain PT. And that I could deal with, and that I could sort of, work with. Um, and she didn't fix me. Going into it thinking that a therapist is going to fix you is just completely the wrong thing to go in there with. You need to go in there open-minded and just go, well, let's see what happens. And that's
yeah,
the best thing that you could do. Going in there with the mindset of, they're going to fix you and they're going to make you better. It just doesn't work and it doesn't happen. The thing that did happen for me, and the best outcome possible from it, was that they gave me the tools to be more open and actually talk about my problems, because I won't tell anybody. I won't tell anybody I was smashing my leg with a hammer, or if I was, hitting myself with a dumbbell in the gym and all that sort. I wouldn't tell anybody any of that, and I would never would have if I hadn't have been through the therapy that I'd been through. And it has given me the ability to talk. And if anything, that is the best thing possible, because talking to people, yeah, it's difficult. You can't go up to someone and just say, oh, yeah, I smashed myself with a dumbbell last night because I got annoyed with my leg because it was jumping around like an idiot. Or, I lost my temper with this or whatever. You can't do that 'cause it's difficult to do. But when people from the outside can see things are going off, and they ask you, don't just say you're okay, because you're not okay. Clearly, they know you're not okay, so they wouldn't be asking the question. Um, and that is what therapy really helped me with. I am still a person that can put things in a box and kick them under a bed, sort of thing, and shut them away and forget about them, which is not a healthy thing to do.
yeah,
But that's the way I can deal with things. I've had a lot of, as you know, I've had a lot of things happen in my life. There's not many people that have had two catastrophic injuries, and and all the other things along the way that's happened. So yeah, I probably can deal with a little bit more than normal, because I've just been through more than normal. Um, but talking about things is the way forward for definite. And
Yeah.
finding an out, finding an out, something that releases the pressure and the stress and the noise of life is the best thing that you could physically do. Talking to people, brilliant, but finding something to get that out of your system is, whether that be going in the gym, beating the life out of a boxing bag, which I did for a while. Going and physically training the life out of yourself so you're that tired that you can actually sleep. Um, or finding something else like wood turning that I did. I've got a YouTube channel on wood turning. I found that again, hyper focus. You have to focus on what you're doing so you can't think about other stuff that's going off, and your brain can't, that little shit in the brain can't get in there and start causing doubts and affecting you mentally.
Yeah.
So yeah, finding something to do is the best for me, is the best advice I could give somebody. And talking.
I think that um for people who are injured watching this, Dan, that is incredible advice. And it wouldn't be Stewarts Soundbites if I didn't ask you before we sign off for kind of something, a little piece of advice. I know you've already given tons, so I'm sorry to ask more. I'm squeezing you. A little piece of advice that maybe you were given along the way that you might pass on to other people affected by spinal cord injury, or who are maybe in the earlier stages and don't haven't quite reached that place where they're looking positively forward.
Yeah. So the first thing is find something. Find something that you could be passionate about, or that you would just like to have a go at that you've never had a go at before. I'd never done archery, and I had a go at archery, and I could have taken that a long way. Spinal unit games, I did very, very well. Um, Shooting, again, I did very, very well and got picked for the Olympic team for shooting, but I chose not to pursue it because I wanted to do hand cycling. Um, Adventure down every spider off down every route that you can, if you can, and find something to get yourself involved in and look forward to. Don't think about, if you're newly injured and you're in hospital, don't think, how am I going to go back to work? Because going back to work on a 9 to 5 isn't going to happen straight away. Certainly not straight away. You've got a lot of life to learn how to live as a paralyzed person or a disabled person first. And also, trying to go back to what you did before, like me, I was a builder. What am I going to do? Build 4 foot walls? That's not gonna, it's not really gonna work, is it? Yeah, I could drive machines, but again, you're causing challenges all the time, and you're looking at something like, I can't do this as well as I used to do. So you're actually almost putting yourself in a failing situation before you've even started. So go do something new. Go do something you never would have thought you'd ever go at in your life. A bit of swimming, you know. I know swimmers that are now para triathletes, that had never swum in their life, and they now swim, competitively, and it is the world's open to you. A bit of advice that was given to me, I said to you before, by Kenny Herriot. He's a wheelchair racer. He said to me, you now don't have to get stuck in that 9 to 5 life of work. You can go and do something that you're passionate about and that you like. He went into wheelchair racing, so he became an athlete in that. I went into hand cycling. I became an athlete in that. You can become an athlete, full-time athlete, paid, if that's something you want to go into. Like me with scuba diving now. I could take that if I want to, with the qualifications that I've got. I could take that and go and work anywhere in the world. Scuba diving, teaching people to dive anywhere in the world. Yeah, it's not a fantastically paid job, but you're paid to go diving in the most amazing places in the world and take other people for that experience.
Yeah.
And it's just like, would I have done that when I was a bricklayer 10, what, now 20 years ago?
Yeah.
No, course I wouldn't. I'd be stuck in that, 9 to 5 job. No, yeah, your life might have treated you differently, but you've taken a big knock, take it and go and find something you love doing.
Well, Dan, I feel inspired, overawed, and extremely grateful to you for all of your wisdom, all of your openness and your honesty, and you know your time for being here and for talking to me. And I know that lots and lots of people will watch this episode and feel the same way that I do. So thank you very, very much.
No, it's fine. I hope I get across half the things I want to say because I can't. I
We
get
can,
a lot of the time I can't articulate what I want to say, and
you have
it doesn't come
articulated,
out well.
you've articulated yourself perfectly. And we will do, I am sure, a follow episode will be in demand.
Yeah,
So
we can talk for
um
hours.
we can do another episode for sure. I'm so grateful to you, Dan. I would encourage everyone watching to look Dan up. As he said, he's known as Wheels Dan online.
Mhm.
So if you just Google Wheels Dan, you'll find his social channels and be able to follow along with his
Find
next
loads of
challenge.
stuff.
Find loads of stuff. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in, for watching us. And thank you again, Dan, and look forward to seeing you soon.
No, thank you for having me. It's been
Thank
brilliant.
you.